The Bug Catcher is definitely my favorite trainer class, not just because I love bug Pokemon, but also because it's so core to the concept of Pokemon when Satoshi Tajiri was conceptualizing Pokemon. He was drawing from his experiences as a kid collecting bugs, so I feel that bug catchers will always have a special place in Pokemon. Unfortunately, in Red, Blue, and Yellow, they are just early game trainers using early game bug Pokemon. The Bug Catcher doesn't use a single Pokemon above level 20 in these games, and they're all from the Caterpie and Weedle lines, except for one single Venonat. Just a straight up Butterfree Beedrill deck isn't really fun to play with, and so we're going to have to stretch outside of these bounds a little bit, but rest assured it is not going to break this mini format by any means, because it's pretty difficult to make an OP Bug Catcher deck. I did decide to stick with the Butterfree line because I do have plans for that base set Beedrill for a different deck, but Butterfree is another card that just, you are never going to see it in regular play, so it's nice to include it in a deck. So I got a full playset of Caterpie going in here. It is a very fragile Pokemon, so String Shot can be very clutch if you can get that turn 1 paralyzed before your opponent can just swamp you with plus powers and knock you out. Metapod's attacks are the same way. Both Stiffen and Stun Spore can be really helpful while you're setting up, because Butterfree is going to need a lot of energy to actually deal damage with. So we got 3 copies of Metapod, 3 copies of Butterfree. Whirlwind can be useful, especially if you need to evolve up into Butterfree quickly just to get that extra HP and survive. But Mega Drain has a little caveat in it that you can abuse, which is whenever you use it, you heal for half of the damage you dealt, rounded up. So if you smack down a plus power on a Butterfree and deal 50 damage with Mega Drain, you get to heal for 30. So a big strategic part of this deck is going to be laying those plus powers and dealing those odd amounts of damage. That way you're utilizing each one as much as possible to heal off of each plus power you use optimally. Now I know that Bug Catchers don't have Venomoth or Scyther in their in-game teams, but one of them uses a Venonat, and I really like this Venomoth from Jungle. It just never really had its own niche to play, but it's got a very interesting Pokemon power that allows Venomoth to change its own typing, so that you can change Venomoth's type to whatever you need to hit your opponent's weakness with. Its Venom Powder attack is only dealing 10 damage, so hitting for weakness isn't that big a deal, but if you can flip heads on this attack, it will absolutely force your opponent to have to swap, which is why Venomoth is the preferred early game attacker. That way you can force your opponent to retreat a lot, get rid of their own energies, or waste their own switches to get out of those special conditions, so that later game you can use Butterfree's Whirlwind more effectively, knowing that your opponent can't just play a switch to get out of it. And all 3 Pokemon in this deck have free retreat, so you can move around freely from your active spot to the bench, from the bench to the active spot, saving those plus powers for late game when you can start attacking with Butterfree's Mega Drain, or setting up those high damage slash attacks off of a Sword Dance from Scyther. That's part of the reason I tried to balance this deck so that it could survive at different parts of the game. That's why you've got a basic bug, a stage 1 bug, and a stage 2 bug. Keeping energy attached to the bugs can be difficult because of your opponent's energy removal. Because of that, you can rely on special conditions to try to stall out for some extra turns, try to hit your opponent in different ways. In base Fossil, special conditions aren't that big of a deal really. Most cards just focus on hitting hard and fast. So we got a full playset of Bill, 3 copies of Professor Oak, which are going to help you cycle through your cards pretty quickly early game. If you're not getting exactly what you want, Pokemon Trader is in here, since there are 3 different evolution lines of Pokemon. You don't want to end up with something stuck in your hand that you can't really use. Full playset of energy removal to help stall out a little bit while you're building up your own energy. That's going to be another big part of base Fossil, is just discarding wars for the first 4 or 5 turns of the game. Because the energy curve is a bit higher for this deck, Lass is going to come in handy. You'll use all the energy removals you have in your hand, and then you'll play a Lass, hopefully discarding a punch from your opponent's hand. Few copies of Item Finder to recycle some of those key trainers like Pokemon Trader and Lass if you need them later in the game. Few copies of Gust of Wind to build into that free retreat special condition combo, and then a full playset of potion, as it's probably going to be needed as you're trying to keep energy on these bug Pokemon. And it also helps out Butterfree when you're healing off of Mega Drain and then also comboing potions on top of that. It can make Butterfree weirdly tanky depending on the matchup. Got a playset of double colorless energy specifically for those 3 copies of Scyther, so you can get off those sweet turn 2 60 damage slashes, knowing that the next turn you're just going to get hit with an energy removal, and that double colorless will be forever banished to the discard pile. And then 10 grass energy, which is a bit low considering that Butterfree's attack alone costs 4 energy, and you have to bank on some of those getting discarded. But I found that I relied a lot more on attacking with Scyther and Venomoth, and then when I did attack with Butterfree, it was mostly with Whirlwind. This deck can go a lot of different ways depending on the matchup, so if you do want to put the main focus on Mega Drain, then yeah, you're going to need to put some more grass energy into this deck. Maybe sacrifice one of those Scythers, or reduce the amount of Gust of Wind, or completely take it out. If you're going to be using Butterfree, Whirlwind is going to be filling that role for you on top of dealing some damage. And this definitely isn't a purist bug catcher deck because it does have Venomoth in it, but you do get to play into that old conspiracy theory that's been going around for years and years that, oh, did you know that Metapod was actually supposed to evolve into Venomoth and Venonat was supposed to evolve into Butterfree, but the coding got messed up? Which I do buy into because design-wise and conceptually, it does make sense, but it's never been confirmed, so who cares? Like Jungle Venomoth, a lot of the other bug types available in Base Fossil are in that category of good, but not great, which in my opinion means fun to play with. Like Pinsir, which would have been a great big basic card if it had a little more HP, or if its attacks didn't cost so much. And you also have Parasect, which has the same slash attack as Scyther, and its Spore attack will guarantee sleep on your opponent. I think if there were some late game bug catchers programmed into the games, they would have been using Parasect, Scyther, Pinsir, but because they were all so early game, they basically just got stuck with worms. You can absolutely just build a deck around Butterfree and Beedrill, but it's a lot of energy and a lot of setup for sometimes absolutely no payoff. That's going to be the Bug Catcher theme deck. And I've had really great response from these trainer class theme decks so far, so I think I am going to continue building in this little mini weird format. I definitely have more ideas that I want to explore, but also want to hear your guys' ideas down in the comments section. Let me know what you thought about this first wave of trainer class theme decks and what trainer classes you would want to see. What Pokemon would they use? Stick to the channel for more vintage Pokemon TCG content, and until next video. Bye.